What's going on, Cyphus Nation? Mike Hackett here. I wanted to talk to you guys about turf wars. It seems like there's a lot going on today, specifically people from junkies to owners to pros, all kind of blowing up my Facebook regarding turf wars and kind of the handicap and I guess the plus minus and some discrepancies and that sort of thing. And I was gonna write kind of like a letter to I guess everybody that's involved, and just publish it on either Facebook or on the actual website. But I thought that it would just be easier to just kind of vent a little bit on a video because I want to kind of convey some points and maybe rant a little bit. This is our fourth year, I think, doing Turf Wars, and Turf Wars was pretty much created as a way to actually bring your collective individual turf together. I don't know if you've noticed it within the turf that you're working out at, but I know for sure in St. Clair Shores it's creating another sense of community, of oneness with your own collective turf. Yeah, sure, it's probably creating a little bit of division from plot to plot, each location, but really what it is it's binding your community together within your location. And all of Cyphus is based on competition. There's a point in time where form is number one, and form is everything that I base. Form first. You can see it tattooed behind me. That's how I value my workout, by the standard that I put on myself. But competition is at the root of everything that we do. And if you say that you're somebody who's not competitive and you don't care about scoring, I don't really buy that, because anybody who does like Cyphus but workout in general, you are a competitive person. You're competitive with yourself. You're competitive with who you are as a person. You're trying to get the most out of life. You're trying to be a better father, a better mother, a better colleague, a better coworker. You are competitive. So if you're trying to say that you're not a competitive person, I just don't buy that, because you don't choose Cyphus as your modality, your way of fitness, if you're not competitive. I mean, we post a score every single day to see how you're doing. So you are a competitive person. And this just takes Turf Wars or Mayhem or whatever it is, it takes it up another notch. Going into Turf Wars a month ahead of time, we have this private group on Facebook that involves all pros. I sent out a poll seeing how we should handicap scores. We had a few different options. One of them was to go head-to-head, just like we have in the past. You take scores just based on how you score and see how people do. We could wean people out that way. Another one was an aggregate score, where it takes our collective handicap and kind of adjust it as you guys do during the competition, which I thought was probably going to be the simplest way and the fairest way to do it, because that way, if we have these higher scores that everyone's either hitting or not hitting, in Turf Wars, it would adjust for this competition factor, and also the turf, I guess the difficulty of the turf and the humidity. But the overall consensus was to go ahead and go with just a straight handicap. So that's the way we did it this year. It doesn't mean that next year we're not going to do something different. But it was the fairest way. I kind of let people vote on it, and that's the way that we did it. And there is a discrepancy in the scores right now, and that a lot of that has to do with the turf. If you haven't already discovered on Facebook, I'm looking at threads right now, literally one after another. But if you're not familiar with it, Harrison Township, they have to face a very tough turf from June, especially through like July, August. Their scores probably are drastically lower by about 150 points, maybe 200 points, because it is impossible to almost do a regular plate push, let alone something like an Ozark or an MFT or something like that. So their scores are going to be lower, which means when it comes to be arid or dry in the months like right now, October or November, the turf's going to be a lot slicker. So they're naturally going to have just boosted scores just because of that reason, but also because they trained in the harder circumstances, and they've probably gotten stronger and built up those areas because of the extra resistance on the turf. Also, if you got places like St. Clair Shores right now, I would say Brownstown and even the other locations, without the big huge high ceilings like Harrison Township and Shelby, it's going to be tighter, and that means there's going to be more humidity, and the plates are going to be harder to push. Okay, so everyone's kind of battling the elements at different periods of time, and that's going to make for different scores. I guess it just kind of depends on when Turf Wars happens. We just happen to do it in the middle of the fall because that's when we're going to get the most participation. Our number one tournament is definitely Mayhem. That gets the most attention. It's the doubles tournament that everyone seems to really take to. We'll be going into our 6th one this year, and it gets the most recognition. And the next one is Turf Wars. We also have Survivor in the summer, but people are either on vacation or they don't do Cyphus as much. They're outdoor people. They're either on the water or they're cycling or running or what have you. And then if we were to do it in the winter, like around the holidays, you're not going to get as much involvement and people are not going to be at their peak performance. So that leaves either the spring or the fall. So I really think that the fall is the way to go. But really what I want to talk about is what Turf Wars is meant to do. It's supposed to bring us together, okay? Yes, there's division between each location, but that's okay because you're building up the people that you're with every single day. Even if I'm hearing, I guess I'll highlight Brownstown because I'm hearing a lot of disgruntled members scoring lower than maybe what the other turfs are doing. I'm still hearing cohesion from Brownstown. So what it's doing is what it was designed to do, was to kind of bring you guys together. Sure, maybe you're collectively upset, but you guys are still unified and together as one. But I don't want this to be lost in the whole thing, is that we're all this birds of the same feather. Okay, we are still all collectively Cyphus trainers. We are all a different breed. We're all extremely competitive. And at the end of the day, we're all still doing the same workout. We're still on each other's team, but we're just in different positions, in different locations. And we should be applauding people for their achievements on the turf. In no way are we trying to knock anybody down. We are not trying to belittle what other people are doing, either scoring higher than what they usually do. I'll use myself as an example. I've gone through a lot within the past 12 months, especially for those of you who've known me. My scores have gone down considerably. Part of that is just because of some of the stuff that I went through. The other stuff is because I've stopped and focused solely on form. And so, I'll score maybe 500, 600s, but I'm going slower, taking the time to be aware of my body, be aware of my movements, and just really pride myself on, I don't care if I push myself that extra inch to score a little bit higher. I'm not going to absolutely destroy myself and be on the verge of maybe like throwing up or just feeling sick or not feeling good or wanting to like miss my workout because I know how difficult I'm pushing myself. I've been doing this longer than anybody, almost 8 years now, Cyphus specific exercises, and I've realized the value in going a little bit slower, paying attention to form. I feel a difference in my body, the way it moves, the way it recovers, and my energy level. So that way, when it does come time to where we are focusing on competition, I can score a little bit higher. I could score another 50 points higher if I really push myself. And that's okay. Just because maybe I'm scoring lower in the summer months doesn't mean that I can't turn it up a notch in the fall. And so again, I guess another thing that kind of goes into all of this is the workout planning. I plan all the workouts and I do them intentionally. Like if you remember Survivor, I put a blog post about subjective and objective workouts. Most of the workouts that you do in Cyphus are something that I call subjective. That means that depending on who your pro is, who's overseeing your class, there's a lot of little things that you could be doing that doesn't translate into scores, or I would say like accurate scores. So things like your cyclone's always one I go to. If you don't fully extend and turn your hips, or do bully the right way, or if you go to your knees on inchworm, or just minor things that get overseen by a lot of pros, your scores are going to be at a higher level, but the standard might be a little bit different from turf to turf. Now, when we fast forward to competitions like right now, when we're doing with Turf Wars, those workouts are a little bit more objective. So there's fewer ways for you to cheat them. I'm not saying that you are somebody, if you're scoring lower, that means you're cheating. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is it's harder to string together a whole bunch of exercises and still maintain the score that you usually do. I'd actually make the jump to say that if you are somebody who's scoring either at your average or a little bit higher, you are probably someone that probably pays attention more to form or is able to get past some of those harder exercises with more ease, and that's in direct proportion to how you're able to carry out some of those tasks with the proper form. So to that, when I'm creating these workouts, you'll notice that I will give you harder exercises earlier in the workout, so that way it kind of separates the field a little bit. If you're somebody who scores usually in like the 500s, and you have a difficulty with, like, for instance, when we did the speed bump workout, everyone pretty much got the single leg inch. A lot of people got to Wicca, Devastator. Those are hard exercises. That's going to slow anybody down. Now, it's not that you're trying to get through them fast. Some of those exercises, particularly Wicca or single leg inchworm, you have to do them the right way. There's really no way around it. Devastator, you can kind of cheat a little bit, but it's going to slow anybody down. And there are tasks that you got to go slower on and do the right way. But if you're proficient at them and you've built the muscle and the form and the flexibility is probably the most important thing on a lot of those. If you have the flexibility to do those exercises, you're going to be less fatigued and allow you to do the exercises better that come after it. So if you're not used to doing those exercises, then like if you're only scoring like 600 to 700, you probably never get to those single leg inchworms very often. So you don't know how to approach it when you get to it. So that's another thing that's probably kind of offsetting your scores and making them lower, because it's not as a tumultuous road ahead as compared to most of our workouts. So Cyphus is not always that way, and it's not always that hard. I hear everybody's feedback that not everybody wants to have that hurdle that they can't get through and can't push through. There's no fun in that. But when it comes to competition time, that's the time to do it, because then that way you can show off what you've learned throughout your years or months or what have you in training. I just really don't want people to lose sight in that what we're trying to do is build a community, and even if that means division for 1 week out of the entire year because you're trying to boost your own collective turf's community and pride, so be it. We're all still kind of building this little community that makes up the bigger community of Cyphus training. If you go to March Mayhem, it's just 2 people. So you know what? You're probably going to have a little division within your own collective turf. That's fine. If you go to Cyphus Survivor, it's a singles tournament. You're battling it out neck and neck or head to head against somebody else in your turf. That's fine too. It's all based on competition, but it's also holding yourself to a certain standard. Everyone's got to face their own environment, whether that's the turf or the weather, like Harrison Township does. But I just, all in all, really don't want anybody to lose sight that this is essentially just a game that's kind of fooling you into pushing yourself to a degree that's higher than what you might do in the gym. Don't forget that. Remember if you are someone that recently came from the gym, when have you ever had something that's pushed you this hard, or that you've cared this much about something that you want to go rant on Facebook or call somebody else out from a different gym because they're not doing the workout the way that you think that they should be? I'm sorry, that's a good thing. If you're talking about Cyphus and you're that passionate about it, that means that this is lightning in a bottle, because it's got you so involved and so passionate about your workout that you do care about what other people are doing. So give it a positive spin. Realize that what you're doing is doing something that's bettering yourself and hopefully bettering the people around you. And enjoy the competition. Enjoy the people around you, and just focus on yourself. So that's all I've got. I'm sure I could go on for days if other people started asking me questions. If you do have questions, let me know, and I'll try to address them. Thanks, guys.